Hi, I'm Pastor Brett Davis here at Georgetown Lutheran Church at our Wall of Crosses. I want to focus in on one of them today. It has figures seated around the table, and in German it says, I am with you, or I have this one also that says the same thing in Dutch, I am with you. Question is, who's the you? In today's reading from Isaiah, we have the foretelling, which we'll also hear in Matthew, that God is going to send a child who will be named Immanuel, which means God with us. And that's such a promising, comforting word. It is the promise of my life that I hold on to, that God is with us, with me, with you, on hard days, on joyful days, all the same. But the challenge comes on days like today, when our country is so divided. This morning, the House is going to vote on the impeachment articles, and it feels like, at times, like we are really far apart from our neighbors, but it doesn't have to be that way. How'd we get here? Well, one of the ways, I think, is by thinking about this, I am with you, promise of God, and thinking that we get to choose the you, or forgetting that God is with our neighbors as well. It makes me think about how German soldiers in World War II had on their belt buckles a very similar phrase, but it was Gott mit uns, God with us. So that is true. God was with those soldiers, but God was also with the soldiers who stood on the other side. One of my favorite songs of protest written by Bob Dylan is God on Our Side. I'll link to the Joan Baez version that I love. But the thing is that God does take sides, but never in violence or in wrath. And the amazing thing about Advent is that we get this promise that God is with us, but it is so fragile and vulnerable. We get a promise that God will be with us in a way that might not mean winning the battle, but it's nonetheless true. So I offer you some words from theologian James Alison, who shares powerfully about how Advent starts with this big, dramatic, violent-sounding apocalyptic language, but then comes all the way down to a lowly place in a manger where God's promise of Immanuel will become true. So I share that with you this week, invite you to engage on our Bible study, and I share with you the good news that wherever you are, God is with you. God is with all of us.
Yeah, the Advent story, what's really nice, I think, about the Advent liturgy is that the readings that are normally set up in the lectionary cycles start with, as it were, something coming which sounds as though it's going to be violent, and it gets less and less violent, and then it ends in something absolutely unremarkable. And that's the remarkable thing about it. It's the undoing of the expectation of...
The remarkable is the unremarkable?
Yes, exactly.
It's a hard sell.
Well, Christianity is a hard sell in that sense. Yeah, but it's the...
What gives you hope about the unremarkable?
Because it's the undoing of wrath. The assumption that if God is going to arrive, then it will look wrathful. And the realization, this was, even John the Baptist expected that. John the Baptist was pretty thrown by Jesus not being as wrathful as he had expected. And the realization that actually there is no wrath at all in God, that wrath is our wrath, and we're pretty good at it. And that God is going to start undoing all of that from within, starting from the most vulnerable place that a human can be, which is as a baby.